Hello and welcome to the first episode of the Scotch Podcast. My name is Seb Henderson and today we are joined by two incredibly special guests of our Scotch community, Louis Merrigan.
Hello all.
And Ella Ifould.
Thanks for having me.
And these are our current college captains. So at the first assembly this year, these two announced the idea of purpose and connectivity. And so Louis, do you want to enlighten us about what this connectiveness, is?
Yeah, so for Ella and I, we thought it would be really important to start the year with a theme, and that theme for us was connection. We sort of decided connection because the past few years have been focused on a lot of disconnection with COVID and all the restrictions surrounding that. But then as we sort of looked into it further, we found just how important it really is, especially for a school dynamic, to have connection between year levels, connection between campuses, and just connection between people.
Yeah,
really.
It's quite a nice overarching word that can be taken in any direction. You can kind of, it's quite an important thing. Yeah,
and we're lucky that it is so overarching because we've found we can sort of manipulate it to be a theme of a lot of things, and it's very easy to find purpose when you have a theme. So yeah.
Yep. So a few examples, could we just supply a few examples of how we could see this connection throughout the school, throughout the campus?
For me, the biggest thing is I like to focus on the little things. So it's either a hello across the yard, or a helping hand when someone might need it, or on the footy field, pat on the back. Just the little things are what really promote connection for me. But
yeah, I think nicely we said before is you can kind of take it in any direction, so that connectiveness can look like so many different things. It can be on that really large scale of this massive initiative where everyone comes together. It can be that small thing where you say hi. So yeah.
Yeah, and I feel for that general well-being, and probably a word we overuse almost at Scotch. I remember when I was first year, and I reckon it was year 9 and then year 10 as well, I really realised, and I was playing pool with George Dunn. He come downstairs as a year 12, we're just playing pool, and just that simple act just out of his day just made me feel a lot better. And I feel it's so important to try to improve that connection and improve the culture that we have at Scotch just through those connections as year 7 to 12 or
exactly.
6 to 12 or 9 to 12 or 10 to 8.
Yeah.
I feel just boost a bit of well-being.
And those interactions are the things that people remember, those small moments where you get that interaction with the year 7 and they go, oh my God, that's incredible.
Ella and I, and like your story with George, we both recount being little year 7s, being new and having interactions with people older, and really we've tried to recreate that as much as we could this year because we know how impactful it was for us at that age. And so that.
Do you think you sort of have any sort of overarching sort of memory of an example of Louis when you were in year 7, when a year 12 or a year 9 or year 11 did that to you?
Well, my big one, I was actually year 6, and I have an older brother who, when I was in year 6, was in year 8, and I came up to the big campus to have an athletics training, and the Walter boys, Ned and Hugo, were there as well, and they would have been year 9, which for a year 6 they were pretty big, and I was scared and new, and they straight away said, you're a Merrigan, geez, you must be quick, you must be a good runner. And that was just I just wanted to come up to the big campus and be around them, and then that prompted me to run water for the firsts, as a little year 6, running water for the first, and just seeing them on the footy field was just crazy to.
Yeah, mine was when it was my first week of coming to boarding, so I was pretty homesick and dealing with all those elements, and I was sitting in the common room, and Tori Mould, who was in year 12, just sat next to me and had a chat to me and asked how I was doing, and I actually cried to her, but and it was really nice because we just talked about, because she'd obviously gone through being homesick, and and she worked it through with me, and it was really, really nice.
It's amazing. It's a different environment boarding, and that I remember when I was first here in year 9, you get a little bit homesick in that, but after a couple of years you see now the new kids also getting homesick. So it's like this pattern that sort of keeps going, but it's just good to be on the other side of it and to be able to give that advice that the other leaders from previous years have been able to give to you. So it's nice, to still link up all that connection and make people that little bit more comfortable as well. So that's really important. So I've talked about a couple of stories. What else? What else is really important to us? What are some other themes that we're going to be targeting this year, Louis? A couple of those smaller things that are really important.
Well, we have been, I think, focused so much so on the little things that we tended to overlook the big things that Ella and I can achieve or can do this year. And it's really, our eyes have been opened the past few weeks because we've had this initiative with Mrs. Grave, Mr. Ritson, and Mr. Stewart has been a big help, but really it's all to do with our connection to the York Peninsula and part of our campus, which is on Goose Island. And we've been trying to find ways which we can pay our respects, pay tribute to the community of Port Victoria and Point Pearce for having us for so many years. But we went over there last week. Ella can tell you about it.
Yeah, well, we just had a chat to the local, Linda Cooper from the Point Pearce Community School and just talked about how we could kind of see a future and where we could take that relationship.
And it was really focused on strengthening our relationship because not only with the Kaurna people of the Adelaide regions, but the Narungga people of the York Peninsula, but it turned into how we can help that community. And we really can. The position Ella and I are in, and the position Scotch is in, we are very capable of helping out a small community like that. And it just opened our eyes with how easy it is to action something that can impact people's lives outside of the school community. So, there's little things, but there's also some pretty big things, which is just, awesome to be
and then
part
when
of.
you become connected and that's the overarching value and you do work towards something big, it is actually incredible what we can achieve.
Yeah.
So.
And it does come back to the connection piece because, we're trying to build connections through the school but also wider community as well.
So you two have been down to Point Pearce and that only last week, I remember, and you get back and you settle back in and that, and it's a massive day probably to do 600-700 kilometres in the car. It's absolutely massive. The impact, what sort of impact are we going to try to have there as like a college down there at Point Pearce? Where are we moving forward with that now going?
I mean, the overarching thing that is really, really important is just having a genuine relationship with them and making sure that it's not we're coming in assuming what they would really want from it. So it's kind of a relationship where we ask them what they would like to achieve from it, because we learn so much when we do those day visits in year 10, and we learn so much about on country and that cultural experience. Yeah,
so the first big thing was for us is just immersing ourselves in their culture and being on their country. And so the first sort of thing we have thought of and are putting together is just a cultural immersion, but Narungga focus. So there's Budgerah Rocks, there's a lot of Dreamtime land and sacred sites there that we plan to have meet with elders and have some lessons on language or traditions or music and other things, but then through that genuine relationship comes sort of a partnership where we have the ability to foster some growth in that community, which may look like some funding for a wider school program, because at the moment they just have reception to year 2, and there's 12 students in that Port Victoria Point Pearce community school, to be able to support them to facilitate more kids in that community school is something that we would love to do, and that's what the community would really benefit from.
So that's the end goal. With the end goal is we're going to try to build up and try to help them out. Maybe get some more teachers, get some more financial assistance, but to be able to do that beforehand, we're going to have to put ourselves in their shoes and be able to relate and get used to the culture and the demographic that they have to put themselves in as well. It's totally different. And then if we can get to that point of relating and learning some of their culture, and then maybe continue down the track, maybe it might be this year, maybe it might be 3, 4, 5 years away, where then we can continue to give back and grow from that.
Exactly. More of a partnership, yeah. Like a relationship, yeah.
Yep. So on to school captains. Even today, I saw you guys walking out the campus to go to the junior school, which is super important, going down to see the year sixes and that. Can you explain to our audience what are like some of the responsibilities and duties of being a school captain here at Scotch?
I mean, it varies from day to day. Like, there'll be some days where you just wake up and you're, you know, like normal. And then there's other days where you have to represent someone at an event. So I mean, quite an important thing for Louis and I approaching our role this year was just being like normal and just kind of like staying consistent and like doing the big things, but also just focusing also on the little things.
So we have the things that we have to do, which is like the representation and the service, and Ella and I, we make fun out of all of that, you know, we've met so many new people, had so many relationships and made so many connections. We, you know, couldn't be more happier with the experience that we've had. But then, you know, we have the things that we don't have to do but want to do. So, which is like the project we just talked about, but it's also, you know, working with the wider leadership group, focusing on, you know, just developing us as a leadership group and more of a team as individual roles. But yeah.
The opportunities have been like incredible. Like it's the things we've been exposed to are just like, would have never imagined it.
Yeah, definitely. So you've already talked about there, like how you have some like internal stuff like within the school and with other leaders, with your house captains and with your sport captains, performing arts and all of that, and, you know, running a few expos there. And then we've got some other stuff, some external stuff that we also do outside the school. Amongst all of that, there must be some incredibly challenges and some obstacles that you have to jump over. Could you explain a couple or a big one that you've had to jump over this year?
Well, yeah, we've definitely both had our big obstacles. Earlier in the year, Ella had to take some time off, and so I was left to run the show on my own. And it just happened to be the week that we had another student-led assembly, and we had a junior school commitment that I missed. I had footy training, and then I was meant to go to this junior school commitment and then organise this student-led assembly. And I went straight to the chapel and missed the junior school thing. Got an email saying that I'd missed it, and that was just before the student-led assembly was about to start. I pretty much broke down. Thanks to Mr. Ritson and Mrs. Grave, I didn't have a full breakdown, but you know, we got through the assembly fine, and I wasn't in that much trouble that I missed the junior school thing. And it just, you know, I learnt so much from that, because really I've just learnt to go with the flow a bit more, and, you know, things will sort itself out. But you know.
I mean, the big thing's also just been balancing year 12.
Yeah.
Like, it's pretty massive. But like that academic side and then the social side of still wanting to go out with your friends and that kind of thing. And then on top of that, the leadership role. But I think quite a few, like, I've learnt so much from it, and I've gained so many different things. Like, resilience has been built in the masses. So
But it's so helpful having a good team around you. Like, we have Mrs. Grave, Mr. Ritson. I'm sure I'm missing some people, but Billy and Molly, they've been a massive help this year. Always sticking their hand up when we can't do something. You know, they'll fill our shoes in down at the junior school, or, you know, go on events when we can't. Can't be more grateful for all of them. Yeah,
it also extends to the house captains and that broader leadership team, where they put their hands up for barbecues and that kind of thing. Like, it actually wouldn't be possible. We're nothing without anyone else.
The amount of barbecues we've had this year.
Yeah, and Ellie, you've just sort of touched on the next question we got to, and it's about that, you know, balancing the responsibilities at school, being a school captain, and the academia, the sport, the performing arts, and that, and like, that's incredibly tough. And you just touched on that. So, Louis, how would you say, how do you go about trying to manage these different sort of commitments on a day-to-day life?
Well, I'm quite a organisation fanatic. I have a lot to get on to manage and to organise. I tend to, I'm a big visual sort of planner, so I'll have a calendar and a diary and you know, checklist, but it gets pretty full. But like I said before, you know, just take things one step at a time and just tick that box, keep ticking those boxes. And, you know, that might be getting rings done or getting that assignment done or writing that speech, but we've done pretty well so far. I mean,
Yeah.
So, just taking one thing at a time, really.
And already in the back end of term 2, almost within 2.5 terms really of leadership since term 4 last year. What would you say the most rewarding moment has been from being school captain?
Far out. I think there's so many moments where like you go to those massive events and you meet so many different people and it's like, just incredible, and you have those conversations that you would have never really had. But like, I mean, met the Prime Minister last week, so that's
pretty cool guy.
That is pretty cool. But I feel like even then, my highlights are topped by those little moments where you go into the junior school and people remember your name and they go,
and you get
hey,
those
Ella.
high fives, or you get, they
Like
run up to you.
Yeah, I love that. Those moments, like this morning when we went down there and someone remembered my name, I was like, yes. Like they know who I am.
You've achieved something.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly. So, yeah, those little moments.
Yeah, definitely. I think I much rather appreciate the little things, as I keep saying, but I mean, last week was pretty good with like that probably topped it. It's just seeing how much of an impact we can actually have in the position that we are, which we completely overlooked, as I said. But yeah, it's been an amazing experience.
Yeah, absolutely incredible. Going to jump something slightly different here, and a bit of a random sort of fun question. And I know, Louis, you're an absolute canteen nuffy. And what would you say? What would you say is your favourite sort of order at the canteen when you go in there? Because I know when I go in there, I'll go straight for the bacon and egg, and I will snatch that out of any kid to get the last bacon and egg, no matter if it's a year 7 or a staff member. And then I'll go straight to a chocky milk, and I'll even go a large chocky milk.
Have you always been a bacon and egg man? Like,
Always.
See, for me, I'll go through stages. Like, I when I was younger, I went through a bacon and egg stage. Then I went through a croissant phase.
Nah.
Then I went through a pasta phase. But then I swear they changed the recipe. And so now I'm very much just go grab a pizza or two, and then maybe a chocolate mousse, but definitely a chocolate milk.
A chocolate
as well.
mousse?
Yeah.
Ooh.
I mean, that's sweet, but
I don't mind that. I don't mind a chocky mousse.
I head up to Piranha more often now. Just get the bircher there. I'm on a first name basis with the.
Oh wow, with Mel, with Mel,
with Mel.
Wow.
Mel knows me.
Mel, yeah. But yeah, what's your canteen go to? No, you wouldn't.
I don't.
Yeah.
Not a canteen person.
I mean, it's quite bad because once I start, I can't stop. So like, I'll go there and I'll like splurge for about a week, and then I'll have the funds for it. So I'll just suffer. Anyway.
Nice. And in any closing words now, have you got like maybe a challenge for the wider Scotch audience, or anything that you want to finish off on, Ella?
I don't know.
Well,
Continue to be nice. No? Like, I don't know.
Quote it. Put it up on the wall. Put it up on every wall at Scotch College.
I want a sound effect here. I can't.
Oh.
I was going to do a budumch just because. We're coming into holidays, so I guess.
Yeah, enjoy it.
Just challenge you to have some fun. Keep in touch with your mates. Get some sleep. Read a book.
Yeah.
Or not.
Yeah, or not.
So overall, the challenge is in the eye of the beholder. Get
Yeah,
some sleep.
Exactly.
Have some fun in the holidays, but overall remember that connection.
Yeah,
maybe in this last week, in the next 4 days, maybe have a chat to maybe a younger person of the audience, or even an older one.
There you
And
go, Seb. He's done it himself.
there we go.
He wanted to say it all along.
Been waiting for that one moment.
Yeah.
You just butchered me there, Louis. But John, be the best you can possibly be. Maybe Louis
Strive for
finishes
success.
Strive for success.
Yeah.
There we go. Strive together. As we were saying, Stuart there. Let's quote that of the week.
There you go.
Striving together. I love that.
Nice.
Well,
Yeah.
does that wrap it up? Thank
I think
you for
that
having
wraps
us,
it
Seb.
up. No, it was a privilege. You won't be on here next week, but thanks for coming on this week. Hopefully we can get some better people on next week.
Oh, well.
Anyways, have a good one.
Nah, thank you,
Good
Seb.
night.
It's great to be here.
Good night. Thanks, Seb.
Good night at 1 o'clock.